generation and revolutionize the creative process.
They use the mail. They deliver in other ways, but they want to deliver vast amounts of information over the internet. And again, the internet is not something that you just dump something on. The internet is not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes.
Hello everyone, my name is Nick, and I'm your world champion. As always, I hope you're doing well. Very often, I like to make the joke that guys like Jeff Bezos, Dana White, and Mark Zuckerberg are the closest things that we have that depict similar to cartoon villains. Don't get me wrong, I will still continue to make this joke, and I encourage you all to do the same. But if I was to ask you who was the one artist that we had that could realistically be called the most fictionist villain in our very real world, I hope only one man comes to mind. And that man is Daniel MF Doom Dumile, a hip-hop artist who transcended genres and will go down as one of the greatest MCs that ever lived. Even if you realize it or not, your favorite rapper's favorite rapper has influenced artists of our generation. In eras of hip-hop, where we've seen boom-bap rap to the quick, snappy drill beats of our generation, there was one man who was once in a lifetime. There was one villain that just had to win. And there was no artist that was able to create fictionist themes better in our real world. If you give me the time, folks, I'd like to tell you just how cool MF Doom really was.
If not, I'll simply twist your wrist, so listen up closely. With thoughts to recruit me, cause I hope to gross like 10 cents per groupie. Not only if I have...
It's Tuesday, July 13th, 1971. A cloudy day in London, England, like usual. Over in the United States, the American League just defeated the National League 6-4 in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And Carole King is topping the charts with her hit single, I Feel the Earth Move. Our story starts over in the Hounslow district of London. A rumble is heard, clouds begin to form in the sky as it begins to rain. The Doom's presence has been felt. Daniel Dumile is born. What the world doesn't know yet is that its most winningest villain is about to grace its earth. By the way, him being born in England is going to play a big factor in this story. Remember that. Dumile and his family would move from London to Long Island, New York, and he grew up in Long Beach. During the summer of his 3rd grade, Dumile would begin expressing his interest in music by DJing and began to collect comic books. His friends and family would give him the nickname Doom as a play on his name. The first crack in the glass has shown. Our villain is beginning to be forged. Dumile would make his first steps into hip-hop when he started the group KMD, which stands for two things actually: causing much destruction, or a positive cause in a much damaged society. KMD would consist of Daniel's brother Ding Gilsway, who went under the name DJ Subrock, and Rodan, who would end up leaving the group and be replaced by Onyx the Burstone Kid. But don't feel bad for Rodan though, he didn't do anything bad. He just left to go finish high school. Good on him. And Daniel Dumile would don the first of many names. This one, Zev Love X. KMD would make their recording debut on 3rd Base's track, The Gas Face, appearing on the Cactus album. This grabbed the attention of Elektra Records executive Dante Ross, who signed KMD to their label. They would release their debut album in 1991, entitled Mr. Hood. Covering topics of racism and black empowerment in comical manners, this gave KMD a reason to bring their voice up, and let Zev Love and Subrock experiment when making beats for the group, going from speaking to their black and Muslim roots to sampling Bert from Sesame Street on the track Who Me. Mr. Hood would be enough of a success for the group to get a chance to go back in the studio to work on their sophomore album, Black Bastards, an album set to depart from their lightheartedness seen on Mr. Hood, and it's evident from the start when you take a glance at the album cover, a Sambo character being hung in a game of hangman with missing vowels. However, weeks before the album was set to release, KMD became a one-man show, when Onyx the Burstone Kid left during recording sessions, and dreadfully, on April 23rd, 1993, at only the age of 19, Ding Gilsway DJ Subrock Dumile was struck by a car and killed when crossing the 878 Nassau Expressway. Daniel would go into a recluse state, finishing the album over the course of the next few months. It would be announced with a release date of May 3rd, 1994, but when that day came, no album came with it. Instead, executives at Elektra Records gave Dumile a $20,000 check to leave, and without many options left for him, He accepted. Ultimately, Elektra Records would drop KMD for their label for the controversial cover art. Rather than calling it a blessing and a curse, for Dumile, it was a curse, then a blessing. Losing his brother left him broken, living damn near homeless, walking the streets of Manhattan, and sleeping on benches. He would find himself settling in Atlanta by almost the end of the decade. According to interviews with Dumile himself, he was recovering from his wounds and swearing revenge against the industry that so badly deformed him. The glass containing the doom on the inside has shattered. Every villain has a reason for their madness, and Dumile's reason was evident. Much like the villains he idolized his entire life, he wants to follow in their footsteps. Dumile wants the power of the sun in his hands, and he wants the rain on everyone's parade because he felt like the same thing happened to him. Some people say that there's nothing more dangerous than a man who has nothing to lose. I would argue a man who has everything to gain is even more vicious. And for Dumile, it was time to take. It was time to take everything. By 1997's, Black Bastards was already heavily bootlegged, and the legend of Zev Love X grew. Nobody would figure that the man with tights obscuring his face, freestyling in the New York and Poets Cafe of Manhattan, would be Zev. The ever-innovative MC would finally end the mystery 2 years later, when tights were swapped out for the metal-faced mask. The transformation is complete. His presence is felt. Dear God, MF Doom is here. This is also a good time for me to teach you a quick lesson. Contrary to popular belief, MF Doom does not stand for motherfucking Doom. But again, it stands for two things. Metal face when recording, metal fingers when producing. By the way, you will be immensely clowned in public if you ever call him motherfucking Doom. Please, I don't want you to look stupid. In 1999, the man came to destroy rap would usher in the critically praised album Operation Doomsday. With it came everything we would come to know MF Doom for. Choppy, wordy, rhymey flows, cartoon sampling, and off-the-beat rapping. This was the first MF Doom project I listened to, and when I first heard the intro skit, The Time We Face Doom, you get a great idea for how MF Doom is going to be painting this world around us. He does a fantastic job on this project of having skits and instrumentals consisting of strictly cartoon language and dialogue, but it's never a problem. The cartoon sampling can be used in so many versatile ways, but I love to interpret it as it's the citizen's way of reacting to what the big bad villain is doing. Think when Mysterio told the world Peter Parker was Spider-Man. But after the intro skit, it's time to start rapping. And already on his first album, MF Doom has honed his craft and undoubtedly found his sound. This is a fantastic album to get a more understanding of who the man MF Doom is. Tracks like Doomsday, Rhymes Like Dimes, and The Finest are great places to start when getting into the man Doom. His rhyme schemes on the first two go above the others with the needed mention, with the chorus of Doomsday, which is practically heroin for your ears because I heard it once and was addicted.
On Doomsday, ever since the womb till I'm back where my brother went, that's what my tumor say. Right above my government Dumile.
Fondulum Records would also put out KMD's Black Bastards for an official release, complete with the Sambo album cover. Doom would continue to release a wide array of music over the next 3 years. Bootlegs, compilations, public appearances with The Mask and all, EPs as well, and the Special Herb series. Some of the beats he would even put on the Herb series would end up being used in projects later. By this point, however, it's 2002. The people were craving new MF Doom solo work, but like always, Dumile keeps us on our toes. And from June 2003 to October 2005, I don't think there was any rapper that would come close to MF Doom. Because he was about to go on a run of albums your favorite rapper's favorite rapper wishes he could pull off. If Operation Doomsday showed us who the man was behind the metal mask, we were just about to find out how imaginative the artist was.
Here he became Dr. Doom.
MF Doom has always carried a special aura around him. You never really know what he's going to do next. When you looked at his career trajectory, he's been through and done a lot, but he was really only getting started. He wanted to release all of his most creative thoughts into our world, and I am eternally grateful because he was able to create the most fictitious, out-of-this-world comic book moments, and I'll go into it soon, trust me. It's early 2003. MF Doom and another producer are working on a collaborative project, but we're going to put a pin in that real quick. It's just going to work better for the narrative, don't worry. 2003 was a big year for MF Doom. We already had one album in the works we know of, but what we didn't know is that there's a monster inside of MF Doom. A three-headed, dragonous monster who's been sent to make a mixtape. And man, did he deliver! Take Me to Your Leader would technically be the second studio album for MF Doom, but it wasn't MF Doom's album. It was King Ghidorah, a moniker Doom first adopted for the hip-hop supergroup the Monster Island Czars. You see, this was a part of the magic of MF Doom. His ability to embody characters that he was creating felt original and was able to make damn good music to follow through on it. Take Me to Your Leader was entirely produced by Doomule, and I knew when I first heard the sound of those strings on phasers, it felt like I was getting beamed up by a UFO, and I was down for whatever they fitted it. For most hip-hop artists, they would have trouble adopting such an over-the-top style of character and being able to have cohesive music behind it. But MF Doom proved that he was able to do this once, so who the fuck is gonna stop him from doing it again? 4 months after the release of Take Me to Your Leader, Daniel Dumile would introduce to us yet another one of his characters. Victor Vaughn would release the album Vaudeville Villain, telling the story of a time-traveling street hustler whose mission is to overthrow the man he looks up to, MF Doom. Described as an unsung classic, Vaudeville Villain sees Dumile move strictly to the mic, and members of Sound Inc. Records would take over on production. Though it doesn't hold up the Doomsday and Take Me to Your Leader in their production standpoint, the rapping here is still just as good as you come to expect. Victor Vaughn would follow up with the second album, VV2. This time, it stood for Reminisce Villain. And it's not too shabby. Not the worst, not the best. The Victor Vaughn and King Ghidorah eras were powerful in their own right. But then, 2004 came around, and it somehow topped it. Remember when I told you Doom and another producer were working on another album? I'm sure, it was like 2 minutes ago. Well, it's time I tell you that story. In early 2003, MF Doom was working with producer Madlib on a collaborative album. The unfinished demo was stolen and leaked onto the internet, and the two, both frustrated, decided to put the project on the shelf for a little bit. Madlib would work with J Dilla to produce Champion Sound, and Doom introduced us to his two friends, King Ghidorah and Victor Vaughn. I hope you respect what I did now. So on March 23rd, 2004, after 2 years of recording, 100 different beats made with one stolen demo later, Mad Villainy would be officially released to the world. So you may be asking, Nick, how was the album? After all this, I sure hope it was good. Well, I may sound incredibly generic saying this, but it's one of the best rap albums of all time. What'd you expect? Like, there's no fucking question in my mind. This is a top 10, if not top 5 rap album of all time. Madlib was made to produce some of these beats for Doom. The way he gets so creative with his sounds and loops is so easy to get drawn into. Reading into the background of this album was even cooler. Madlib went on a trip to Brazil and went crate digging for vinyls to sample them onto the album, including beats for Strange Ways, Raid, and Rhinestone Cowboy. When Madlib and Doom weren't working on the album, they were still hanging out together, drinking beer, eating Thai food, smoking the ganja, and taking some wonderful magical mushrooms. The tracks Figaro and Meat Grinder were products of these sessions, and after learning that about Meat Grinder, that answers every question I've ever had about it. Doom's rapping on this really is some of his actual best at this point. Accordion, the aforementioned Meat Grinder, America's Most Blundin', and All Caps are some of my favorite MF Doom songs, and they're all-time classic tracks. But believe it or not, this man had one classic left to throw at us. In November of 2004, MF Doom got hungry and dropped Food. Back to almost being entirely produced by the man Doom, this is his true second album under the MF Doom character, minus collaboratives, and man, does he just absolutely kill this shit across the board. Each song on the album is named after food, with some of the songs having double entendre meanings for the street world or overall just songs about fucking food, dude. Some of the tracks off this one I think you'll love include the opener Beef Rap, One Beer, Hoe Cakes, Gumbo, Con Carne, which is a beautiful tribute to Daniel's late brother Ding Gilsway, and Rap Snitch Niches, which is probably a top 3 MF Doom song in his discography. So, a big 3 years for the man Doom. he would fade out of the public eye for a few years until releasing his third album in 2009, this time just as Doom, entitled Born Like This. It would be a big one for him for a couple reasons. Technically, this would be MF Doom's last solo album. It would leave him exiled from the United States, actually. We're going to circle back and finish the story, but I want to follow through on a promise I made to you at the beginning of this video. I just really want to tell you how cool MF Doom was.
Iron horse it, you leave it on your face, forfeit. Across the mic, hold it like the heat, he might toss it. Told her, tell him they stole it.
I titled this video, How Fiction Danced with Reality, for a reason. Because MF Doom made things that came only out of comic books and movies. Don't believe me? Well, to start, let me tell you about the Doombots. As the story goes, for shows MF Doom felt like he hadn't been paid enough for, he would send an imposter to the show, donning the metal face mask and lip-syncing to the songs. If it all goes to plan, the crowd should have no idea that they just saw an imposter. Now, not every time it did, so fans began to catch on. Fake Dooms would be booed off the stage, and some would have to leave the venues entirely for how pissed the fans were. Once this began to catch more steam around the world, Doom was going to have to address it. And he did in the March 2009 issue of Rolling Stone, where he told the world, "When you come to a Doom show, come expecting to hear music. Don't come expecting to see. Everything we do is villain style." You can choose to feel how you want about him doing that, but he's not going to worry about how you feel. He doesn't care about how you feel. We are the consumer, he is the artist. We don't get the question when he does. MF Doom only did public appearances and interviews with the mask, much like how a supervillain addresses the world before he planned to take over it. MF Doom wasn't a character for him, it was just him. And everyone Doom came across always described him as never knowing what he was going to do next. Everything MF Doom did was to be the villain. I mean, really think about it. I know I've said the word a lot, but this man did everything he could to embody one. Think about it. Darth Vader sends his cronies before he sends himself. You never know what's going inside of the Joker's head. And the Green Goblin always leaves you on your toes. I wanted to make this compare and contrast just to look at how imaginative Daniel Dumile was as a person. You know, the things he was capable of are truly mind-boggling. The tail end of his career is somewhat of a different story, but if we couldn't appreciate the groundwork he laid down for us, we would have never realized how creative our world can let us be sometimes.
The volcano out of Iceland. He'll conquer and destroy the rap world like the white man. Learned from a pro as a mentor.
The 2010s was an interesting decade for MF Doom. After finishing only his second EU tour, Dumile would be baffled to find out that he would be barred re-entry from the United States. So, I'm sure you've picked up by now, I left out a small part to the story. According to Dumile himself, he says that he was conceived in the United States, but born in London because his mother was visiting family. He says that he has no memory of his British childhood, and his parents have zero affiliation with British culture. However, Daniel Dumile remained a British citizen. So when moving from London to Long Island when he was young, Dumile never became a registered United States citizen. Mind you, he didn't think he had to, seeing how he already lived in the country for the last 35 years, and the fact he already had a wife and 2 kids there as well. Unsurprisingly, this made to be a pretty big conflict for Dumile. He would only speak to his wife and kids on video calls, until he was able to finally move them over to London 2 years later. From this point on, Dumile would officially be done with the United States. He would continue to make collaborative albums with the likes of Gennaro Jarrell to form JJ Doom's Keys to the Cuff in 2012, as well as 2018's Czarface meets Metalface. This album, in particular, was huge. This would mark the final MF Doom album ever. Now, I don't know if his wife was a part of pulling one last trick, or if this was MF Doom's last wish, but on the last day of 2020, we would find out that the world lost Daniel MF Doom Dumile. The only catch, he had passed on October 31st. We were just only finding out 2 months later. From November 1st to December 30th, we walked around the world as if the greatest MC that ever lived was still walking with us. Much like how a villain out of comics or movies would do, one last trick was in order. And it only makes sense coming from this man. The cause of death has still, 2 years later, yet to come out. I don't think it ever will, because, well, everything we do We do it villain style. A big thank you is in order to you, like how I always say. I have zero control over you guys watching my videos. It is only out of your generosity and my ability to create a topic that I think you'll find interesting. Part of me wishes that KMD still could have been a continuous outlet for Doomilay, Subrock, and Onyx, because Doomilay's MF Doom character was built out of so much hatred that it kind of became detrimental to him at some points. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Just during the script writing process, I was pretty sure it was going to end up becoming my favorite video I made. Much like when I made the How Lord wrote the No Skip album at 16, that one became my favorite pretty quick. But I really like when a story like this comes up because it's 100% real, but yet I can still make it very cinematic and it feels like a narrative fictionist story. I guess that's just what makes MF Doom really cool. He didn't confine to artist norms, he created them. I can tell you all about artists who have been inspired by MF Doom that you may not even realize, but instead of doing that, I think I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you a story I felt really passionate about for a really long time. I will bounce past the ball to you. It is in your court. It's up to you with what you want to do with it. You can chest pass the like button, or you can dunk on the subscribe button. I will just let you know you have a 24-second shot clock, so choose wisely. With all that else out of the way, thank you so fucking much for listening to what I have to say. I couldn't force you to sit down and watch this, but be damn sure that I am appreciative of it. Thank you so fucking much. I will see you when I'm looking at you. Peace.